next, I'd like to turn to Petra.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Peter and Mark. If you wouldn't mind bringing the slides back up, that would be very helpful. And while Mark's doing that, as Peter said in the introduction, at Succeed Partners, we work primarily with healthcare clients because that's all of our background. That means we understand the unique ethos of leading clinicians and administrators and caregivers. So as you can see in the slide here, even when we begin with the more traditional individual leader coaching, we see the most benefits to that leader and the system overall when we can integrate team development alongside. So the foundational dimension of work to create sustainable change, and Amy was just talking about sustainability. So that dimension is really the C dimension that you can see in the slide image. And that focuses on thinking about how we think, interact, and take action. And that's the area that most teams spend the least amount of time. So that's why those of us on this panel are here to highlight some tools that we use to help teams spend time here while doing the work of the work. Next slide, please. So practically speaking, what working on the C dimension means is that we're looking at our internal operating system. And that's depicted by this model by David Emerald. And it says that where we put our focus, our attention, evokes our inner state, our feelings. And those drive our behaviors and our actions, which lead to our results. So this is termed the FISB model. Not Frisbee, but FISB. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so we can orient our focus in two main directions, as you can see here. And you can think of this as putting on, which glasses am I putting on? And for those of us who might need readers and distance, that's a little metaphor you can keep in your mind. So when we put our attention and our focus on the problem, on what we don't want, on the thing that we are trying to avoid from happening, that drives an inner state of some version of anxiety and fear. And that then has us reacting to the problem at hand. Okay, so you can view that as the problem orientation and problem reacting. The other set of glasses and the other direction of attention is around the results that we want to achieve. So what we want. And here, that orientation and that focus and attention, that evokes an inner state of some version of what you care about, some passion, some joy. And that then drives incremental steps towards that result that you're trying to accomplish. So these two orientations, the reason that really has impact, and having this awareness of which glasses we put on is what you see now on the slide about the difference in results from these two orientations. So when orienting towards the problem and what we don't want, the results really, our actions and behaviors, ourselves and our teams, are perpetual fire drills. And they really have this episodic. We think we've solved the problem, and then somehow it's here again in some different version. And so over time, that leads to burnout. So it's this repetitive on, off, on, off. And so this is actually termed the drama triangle, and you'll see why in a moment. So these are short-term episodic results. In contrast to the outcome orientation, the results here are that we are taking these incremental steps towards the outcome all the time. So the cycle keeps going. So over time, you are creating sustainable change and results that it might not be linear, but you're always moving towards it. So this is really considered problem solving towards the outcome. And here, this is empowerment. All right. Next slide, please. So those two orientations, whichever glasses you put on, one, have an impact on the results that we have individually or as a team. Two, they also, it's important to know this because we also have a predictable characteristic set of characters and roles that we take on when we have these different glasses on, because it's the way we're seeing the world and our internal operating system. So from that problem orientation, I keep wanting to move my mouse to click on the circle, but from that problem orientation, it's really rooted in this mindset of not having power, of not having the ability to create, and that things are happening to us. So powerless, and having this mindset, it's rooted in a victimhood of there's nothing I can do. The other orientation, the outcome orientation, is also called a creator orientation because it's rooted in this mindset of there is something we can choose. There is something I can create, no matter what the context. And each of these then has, again, predictable roles that we can take on inside in our own internal chatter as well as with others. Okay, so now for the case study. Next slide, please. When a director of APPs, advanced practice practitioners from a neonatal division at a community-based hospital came to us, she was looking for team building. And when she explained what the concerns were that you can see here, that there were some challenging interactions, some of the morale was decreasing, and actually even when there was rounding now with parents, because it's a neonatal division, they were starting to see some impact on those dynamics with the patient care. Some of the APPs were not feeling that they were able to speak into the team in providing care and really practice to the level that they have in their license. So all of that context, it was clear that the team's effectiveness was decreasing and drama was really starting to show up. The nurse manager and medical director were getting a lot more chatter and complaints coming. And so that's why they were looking for team building. And in this conversation, then what we really said was, okay, even how we design this team intervention, as Amy pointed out, creating any behavior change or team dynamic effectiveness changes takes time. So we developed a team development series named Increasing Awareness to Increase Team Effectiveness. Even naming something as an outcome can be the start. Because inside of healthcare, inpatient care, we are trained and wired to fix the problem, to diagnose what's wrong. And so it really does take wiring to practice naming things as what's the result. We introduced in the very first session, and this is shift work, often that can be a challenge. And so we just made it happen so that there were 2 episodes always occurring and swapping of who was present in which. And then over time, beyond the session, they did teamwork together based on what we brought into the session. So some of the impact and results, we shared this framework that you just were introduced to, but in a much deeper way. And the invitation to everyone was to start to understand their own internal operating system and how they were approaching situations themselves, and then the interaction between. So over time, what was named even after 2 sessions was that, I now have an understanding of how I'm seeing and which glasses I'm putting on. By putting on a different set of glasses, actually, I was able to have a different conversation. And this was true inside of the team as well as even at home. It was a great example about a dishwasher and a family dynamic. So the framework and understanding, how do we operate, how are we perceiving and responding to situations, influences how we then interact with others. So taking the time and normalizing that in a group setting where everybody is working on this makes it a safe place to really see that this is true for all of us. And then there's also the possibility to work individually with some people who are ready and willing to do a little bit more work. So that's a bit of the story here. Happy to answer questions, mindful of others on the panel. So I'm done for now. Thank you.